I'm Justin, and this is my story. I grew up in a small West Texas town. I had one stoplight. I was born to parents who were supposed to be unable to have children. I'm 9 years behind my youngest sister, so I'm a ways away. And I'm a pastor's kid, so a lot of people think that growing up as a pastor's kid that everything is great, and it's not really a wonder why I would go into youth ministry. But this is a short story of the things that led up in my life and how God's divine hand was watching out for me even when I didn't want Him to move or work in my life. Throughout high school, I moved away from God. Whenever I got out and was able to make my own decisions and I was in college, I decided that I wanted no part of the church, against my parents' wishes, against everything. I stopped attending church and I made sure that my work schedule made it to where I would have an excuse for not going to church. So during this time, I like to have a little more fun than I was a normal college kid, so I like to go out and have fun with my friends. And one night, I found myself alone in my bedroom at college, and I was at the end of my rope. And honestly, I wasn't sure that I was going to survive the night because of the night that I'd had. I didn't think that my body was going to continue to function. So that night I cried out to God and I said, God, I said, I'm tired of living the life that I've lived. I feel absolutely no fulfillment. I was successful in everything. I had good grades. I was a pretty good athlete growing up. And I was successful in everything, but I still felt there was no fulfillment in my life. And so at this night I cried out to God and I said, God, I'm tired of doing things my way. I know that you have a purpose for me. I know that there's something bigger than this, and I'm tired of living like I've been living. And I don't care what it is, God, if you just let me make it through tonight, then tomorrow I promise I will wake up and I will go to church and I'll try it your way this time. So I made it through the night, and the next morning I woke up, and even though I was still not feeling well, I decided to go to church. Um, Throughout a series of events, I got involved working at a church, and I was attending regularly, and I found a youth pastor who had directed me to a college in Waxahachie. Now, for me, I was a pre-law major, and I was planning on attending Texas Tech. But God had other plans for me. And after talking, I realized that if I wanted to pursue my own career, that would be Texas Tech. But if I wanted what God wanted, He wanted me to go to Bible school. So for me, I packed up, I was registered for classes, and I was on my way to Waxahachie, Texas. Before I even knew where Waxahachie was, or before I even visited the town, the only thing I knew that is if I really wanted and was going to be committed to what I'd said and been faithful to telling God that whatever He wanted me to do, even if it was to be a janitor, that I would do, that I had to go to Bible school and to give it all to Him. So eventually I decided that I wanted to become a youth pastor. God kept working with me and dealing with me, and I knew that for me, the most successful thing that I could do and the most effective thing I could be was a youth pastor. So coming up on graduation, you fast forward, coming up on graduation, I had met a girl and I was excited about asking her to marry me. So as I met her, one thing led to another, and I knew that it was God's hand. And so the night that I was doing my interview with the pastor at the church that I'm now working at, he had asked me how serious we were. Now, I couldn't tell him that that weekend I was going to propose, but I had to tell him that we were pretty serious. So I proposed that weekend, and she accepted, and I called the pastor and told him. So he invited us to come down to speak at the church here in San Antonio. In my prayer, in my quiet time, I prayed and I asked God, God, I really need to know what you want me to do with my life. I've dedicated and committed everything from this point to you, and now, God, I really need you to open the doors for me because I know that I'm not going to be happy unless I go where you want me to go. So he kept telling me San Antonio, San Antonio. And Lauren and I made our way down here, and as we were driving, I said, babe, I really feel that he's going to offer me the position tonight. I really feel, as God's been talking to me, that he's going to offer me the position. I'd already had other churches offer, but I decided that I felt that this was really what God wanted. Sure enough, I came to the youth group that night and I preached, and I went home, and I was actually staying at the pastor's house, and that night we were sitting in the living room and he offered me the position. So God had taken everything from my life and turned it around and made sure and followed things in step as I was faithful and committed to Him. My buddy that I'd went to college with and I'd kind of lived on a little bit on the wild side with, he came to my wedding as soon as I decided to follow Christ, and his path didn't involve that. He decided to venture the other way, and as he came to our wedding, we hadn't had a lot of communication, but I wanted him to share, and he looked at me and he started crying, and he said he's still single and he's still trying to do things his own way, and he looked at me and he said, you know, he said, I know that it's because you've been faithful to God that you have been rewarded the way that you have been rewarded. He said, with your job, with your career, and with your wife. And for me, that was the greatest testimony of all. I never tried to convert my friends. I just tried to live the life in front of them so they could see the change that God had made within my own life without me ever having to say a word.